In today's video, we'll be diving into the world of PowerShell functions. If you've been working with PowerShell, you might wonder, what exactly is a PowerShell function? Think of it as a script block with the name, something you are already familiar with, but with a twist. It comes with extra features or abilities. It has a name for simple calling. It's similar to CMDlets, which are essentially functions that come built in with PowerShell or are included in other modules. Now, you might ask, why is it important to learn about writing functions? The answer lies in the core of good programming practices. One key goal in programming is to minimize redundancy, making sure that any changes needed in the future are made in one place only. This is where functions come into play. By organizing your code into functions, you create clear, manageable blocks. This not only makes your code cleaner, but also simplifies maintenance and debugging. Understanding the full benefits of functions comes with practice and experience. As you get hands-on and start creating your own functions, you'll see how they can make your programming tasks more manageable and your code more efficient. So, let's embark on this journey together and unlock the full potential of PowerShell functions in your programming toolkit. The default call of the script block executes a method called toString, so you will see the script block's content. But in case you'd like to execute it, you can call for that using the invoke method or use the command let invoke command or invoke expression. Now let's see the basic function. As you may see, I'm executing a function code, but not placing it in a variable as I did with the script block. And the reason for that is that it loads into memory, and now I can call it using its name. You see, when I call for showGreeting, the code of the function was executed, and the output of it now appears on the screen. Let's copy this function to a new script and play with it a little more. To add parameters to your function, you should add the param block. In this parameter block, we can write variables that will be used as parameters for this function. Each variable is a parameter now. Those variables only exist inside the scope of our function, and we use them to manipulate the behavior of the function. For example, the name will now allow us to show every time different greeting. Let's make a more useful function with more than one parameter. For example, a function of getting a rectangular area. Now, we will need a length and width for those calculations. It's something simple. We just need to multiply two values. And here is something that you must remember always. Any result inside the function that you didn't place into a variable will be an output of the function. So when we multiply length and width, the result will be an output of function. Now, here is an interesting fact. As you may understand, both of those are numeric values. How do we know that if someone else uses this function, they will not place a letter here? The main idea in this one is to protect us from a wrong input. So the first way is to make a strict type of variable. By this, we say that our parameters should be a specific type. Otherwise, it will give an error that will give someone else a clear understanding that a specific parameter expects a different type of data. But remember to be correct because the wrong strict type can lead to a wrong calculation. For example, if you have a strict variable to an integer, your calculation should process a fractional number too, because the input parameter will be rounded to an integer automatically, and the calculation will be mistaken. Other things that we have for parameters are settings and validations. To add specific settings to our parameters, we can write parameters in square brackets, and inside of it, inside parentheses, to add settings, one by one. For example, we can say mandatory, which will force a function user to provide an input for this input parameter. We can also specify its position or set it to hide specific parameters. I will leave you a place for Googling for all settings. Validations are added in the same way and allow you to check the input even deeper. From testing basic things like the maximal number or length of string to regex pattern validations and sub-expressions for validation. And once again, I will leave you a place for searching them manually, because there are a lot of them and it will require a whole video to show use cases for each of them. Let's talk about the body of function. Usually, it is okay that you'll write it as a monolith, but some advanced features like passing values from the pipeline will require you to create it officially way. For example, this function will return the sum of all numbers. Officially, we should do it all in a few main blocks, with begin, process, and end sections. And of course, if we have more than one parameter, we should set the configuration for this parameter to allow value from pipeline. Begin is often needed to initialize things and declare variables. This block executed only one time. The main processing happens in the process block, and it is executed for each input parameter, like each number will be processed, and the final customization and output at the end block, which was executed once as the begin block. As you can see, I'm passing many parameters to this function through the pipeline, and there is no place when I'm doing for each object or something like that. Sometimes your function will require a specific version of PowerShell or module, or even administrative permissions. For that, you have requires. The requirements should be specified after the params block in a very specific way. Placing a hashtag requires specifying the parameter type of requirement and then providing what. This, for example, will protect your function from execution if you don't have a PS workflow module or your PowerShell version is lower than 5.1. There are more types of requires, and once again, I'm leaving this for your own search. And the last thing for today that we didn't talk about is scoping. Once we create a variable inside the function, this variable lives only inside this function. Outside the function, it does not exist anymore. The reason for that is that we can have the same variable outside the function. As you can see in the example, the variable that leaves outside the function has a value of 55, and the variable inside the function has a value of 15. The scoping for a variable can be changed by adding script or global before the variable name. As you may see now, the variable is on the script level, and when we change it inside the function, it changes and keeps leaving on the script level. A global scope also exists that is shared between files. If you are executing multiple scripts, try to avoid passing any data or something into a function. The function must always have a proper input and output. In the future, if this function is a part of something big, it will be easier for you to maintain it. Once again, if you like what I'm doing, please press the like button below the video. I wish you a great week.